Today I'm replacing the rear main seal on this 5.4 liter 2-valve motor. Now this is a used motor that we're actually putting into my son's pickup for him, but before we do and it's out on a stand, we thought it only makes sense at this point for us to go through and replace the head gaskets, and we're doing the rear main seal. We're just doing a lot of preventative maintenance, if you will, before we install it in the truck. And so I thought it would be great to record this for you today because maybe you'll get to see a much better view and a clearer view of what's involved in this process. Now, if you're doing the rear main seal, hopefully you understand at this point you're either going to have to pull the motor or the transmission to get to it. So we're kind of skipping through that, if you will, because the motor's already out. Now, our rear retaining plate on here that holds our seal in position has 6 8mm bolts along here, and that has two 13mm bolts that come up through the bottom through the oil pan. Now, our oil pan is already off because it's out getting cleaned and painted, so it looks good when we put it all back together. So those are already out, but you will need to remove those. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with just getting our area cleaned up here so all of our debris is out gone. And then we're going to remove our bolts, get the plate out, get everything cleaned up, get our seal put back in, get everything put back together. Now I'm using a FelPro seal, and it is, the part number is BS40644. I'll put a link to one down below in the description for you. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get this cleaned up. Let's get this rear main seal changed out. Now that we have the area cleaned off, let's go ahead. I'm going to break these loose, take them out, and we'll get our plate off. Now I'm going to go ahead and just start working this plate off. It's on there really good, so you're going to need like a pry bar to get this off of there. And you're just going to do it real carefully here. And I'm just slowly working my way around this to get it off of there. And there we have it. Now I'm carefully going to take my scraper. We're just going to go around, get our surfaces cleaned off. We would definitely want to make sure this is all cleaned off in through this area so it doesn't score our new seal. So we'll get some cleaner all in this in here and get it all cleaned up, and then we'll clean off our seal retainer. So one of the things you get with an RTV sealant like this is when you put the plate on, you're going to get some of that inside these openings for your fasteners. So I just took a stainless bottle brush here, cut the end off, and I'm just going to go through and clean those up a little bit and then go through and spray this all down. To remove the old seal, what I've done is I just have two 2x4s here, and I have it open under where our seal is. I have a blunt punch here so it doesn't have a tip to it, and we're just going to work our way around and knock our seal out. So once you actually get your seal removed here from your plate, you get into what I think is probably the hardest part of the job, which is getting this cleaned up. Now, I just used my scraper blade, being really careful. This is aluminum. You don't want to gouge it. And I followed that up with a couple of small straight screwdrivers that did a really good job of getting in those grooves and getting the sealant out. Then I just used like a stiff bristle wire brush to finish digging that out in through there. And then I also got some brake cleaner, scrubbed it out, and it came out looking like this, and it's ready to go. So now this seal is a little bit different than what we're used to in that you don't lubricate anything or add anything to help slide it on. They want it dry and they want a real nice clean surface. Now because I went through and used brake cleaner earlier and knocked a bunch of the junk loose, I did want to go back and add a little lubricant back in here for my bearings and whatnot right behind here, just to get them lubricated up until we get things going and it's running oil through. So I sprayed that down. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and wipe down right up to it in there, and then I have some alcohol here, and I'm just going to take that and I'm going to clean off our surfaces around here where our gasket's going to go on, or our seal, and I just want to make sure that's nice and clean and ready for our new seal. Alright, now I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get our sealant put on our cover here, or our seal plate, and so it's ready to be installed. So now I've added our gasket maker on here, our sealant. I chose to just go with the black. That's what was on there when I took it off from Ford. I suppose you could go with the gray or the black. Like I said, it was black from the factory, so I decided to stick with that. Now you have these dowel pins or guide pins right here. That's going to help us just set it exactly where we need it to be, and then we'll set our bolts in place. On it carefully. Now Luke did go through, by the way, and cleaned off all of our bolts. You're going to want to do that on your fasteners because they're going to have this sealant in the threads. So you're going to want to make sure your threads are all cleaned out. And initially what I'm going to do is just snug these down, and then we'll come back and torque them. Now those are just tightened down to where they're just touching the surface, and so we're going to go and torque these to spec. You are going to tighten these to 89 inch-pounds, and you're going to start with this one, and then you'll go to here, then here, up over to here, down to this corner, and then finish off over here on the top left. So we're ready to start installing our seal. Now this here is our FelPro seal, and it comes with this little plastic installation ring. I'll show you that here in a second. But there's also some confusion when it comes to these seals, in that when I took out the old one, it's almost like it's a two-part, if you will, and that you have the seal, and then there was a slinger actually that was mounted onto the back of this facing out. And I couldn't find one online, and there's a lot of discussion whether you want it or not. I'm putting it on because it came from the factory with it. And so I took the part number off of it. I called my local Ford dealer. I went and picked one up. That ran about $14.80. The part number is F65Z-6310-A. And so once we get our rear main seal installed here, then we'll go ahead and we'll put our slinger on there, and your installation is complete. Now I got to be honest with you, I've never installed a rear main seal that uses this installation sleeve before, so this is something new for me on this. And Ford also has a specialty tool to actually install these, and I don't have that either. I'm actually planning on using my old seal to help tap that in. So I have a few sockets and extensions and whatnot that I'm going to use to try and tap this into place. Everything's dry and clean, and this has like a widened lip. Hopefully you can maybe see that, and what that's designed for is this will go over the end here, and then from there we can start pushing this on and get it onto our crank. So we'll go ahead and line that up. And it has like a stop in the plastic, if you will. So that's as far as it goes initially. So once we get it to there, it's kind of set in terms of our installation tool. And what that does is that gets the lip up and over and onto it so it doesn't get caught and it get torn, and then we have a leak. So we're just going to start trying to work this out and get it on there, and let's just see how this goes. So in this case, I'm going to take my seal, my old seal, and I'm going to use that to help start tapping that into position. Okay, so now at this point we have it started in there. It's pretty square. I'm lucky it's out a little bit more on the bottom, so we'll work that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to use our old seal, and we're just going to slowly work that in as we go. So at this point, we're almost flush all the way around, just a little bit here around this outside. So we're just going to keep working that. And at some point, that's going to slide past our installation tool here, and then we'll remove that. And so now we can remove our installation tool. So now you can see we're getting it in there. Now what we want to do is just get the seal in just far enough that we can take our slinger and install it right behind our seal. We also don't want to drive this one in too far so that we have an issue getting it back out. And we're in a good depth. What you want to be careful of is you don't want to push that seal in too far, push it inside, and then you have to take everything back off and redo your process here. So we have a good lip. We're about a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch, I'm sorry, there inside. That should give us enough room to go ahead now and be able to put our slinger on there. I'm going to tap this just a little bit further. And I think we're looking good there. So here's our slinger, and you want the lip facing backwards towards the back of the motor or towards your flywheel. And we're going to just start trying to work that on here slowly. And on that note, we're gonna wrap up this project here, and I'm really happy with how our rear main seal came out, and I think it's gonna do great for us. So hopefully you were able to get some really good information out of this video, and if anything, at least get a good perspective and some up-close shots of the work that's gonna be involved to get this done, and hopefully it'll do well for you in your vehicle. The next two videos in our series are gonna include installing the oil pump, and then we're gonna be installing the Calvan spark plug inserts. Why don't you hit the subscribe button and stick around here with me in the garage. As always, I appreciate you stopping by, and thanks for watching.